Where I left off in the last video. I had just figured out and finished the system for checking whether the camera was too close to the edge of the map and working on a tile selector or tile selection system. And the very last thing that I mentioned adding was a way. Let me jump into the game really quick. A way to select just tiles that are along the edge. I didn't mean to cut that sentence off, but I don't want to be able to select tiles that are surrounded on all sides by other tiles. And I'll explain what I mean here.
Out of range. Scanning.
That's loud.
Planetary orbit.
So when you're on a planet and there's resources or mineable tiles there, I made it the tile selector so you can highlight the tiles. But I wanted to add a condition, or a set of conditions actually, series of conditions, so that you can't select a tile if it's if it's behind the other tiles. So all of these tiles have at least one ground tile adjacent to them. So this corner tile here is adjacent to this tile here. This tile is adjacent to this tile and this tile. And same for this, it's the same two tiles. This one's got 4, so this one actually touches this ground tile, this ground tile. It's hard to see it without a grid, but I wanted to set it up so you can't touch these. You can grab these, but until this one, or until this block right here has been removed, you won't be able to touch this one. So that was a small little challenge. All I have to do is check if the targeted tile has a ground tile next to it. So back in my rover, in the tile selector, in the highlighter frame. So first, this is going to highlight the tiles or store the current targeted tile. I went through that in the last video, so there's a lot more breakdown of that whole system in the last video. And then it positions the selector frame and the highlighter, or this should say highlight frame. Position the highlight frame. Oops, forgot a space. Okay, and then I've got this giant web here. It looks more complicated than it is. All it is a bunch of conditions, and it's checking to see whether there's a ground tile adjacent to the current targeted tile. So if you're targeting a resource tile, all it's doing is checking in a grid. That's easy to show in Paint. When it's going around in a circle, basically, each of these conditions is checking one of these 9 tiles in a grid. And so this center tile here is the current tile. And all it's doing, let's say this is the copper or iron resource tile. All it's doing is going around in a circle and checking each of these. Is this a ground tile or a wall tile? And a wall tile, I guess I'll say, is red. So if it's a ground tile, why not use green as ground tiles? So the center tile is just checking to see if there's ground tiles or wall tiles. And if there's a wall tile, it doesn't even care. It doesn't really check if there's wall tiles. It's only checking if there are ground or floor tiles here. That looks kind of weird, but the way I'm doing that is just going around in a circle, and it's the target X position minus 32, minus and plus to get the tile left and right. So back in this grid here, oh, that's terrible. I need black. So for checking west, we want to subtract 32 pixels from the target position. And if we're checking one tile to the east, we want to add 32 pixels. Same thing for north and south. So for the Y position, if you're checking north, it'd be Y minus 32. And if you're checking south, it'd be Y plus 32. For the corners, it's checking both of those x plus 32 and y plus 32 kind of goes in a circle or circular fashion. This would be x minus 32 since it's to the west, and y plus 32 since it's to the south. And then the same for these upper corners. This would be x minus 32 and y minus 32. This would be x plus 32, y minus 32. So all I'm doing is checking these tiles that are surrounding the target x and target y position that I stored earlier. There's more about that in the last video, but it's taken the tile that the cursor is currently targeting or clicking on, and then it's just going around in a circle and checking whether there's a ground. And so I've made these two variables, ground found, or one variable, ground found, with two results. So it'll either return a 1 if it does find a ground tile, or a 0 if it doesn't. And that's useful because that's basically a switch that I can check with a condition branch. So I just need to put the variable here, which is a local variable I made, ground found, and if it returns a 1, it'll go this way to the left, and if it returns a 0, it'll go this way to the right. So that just, yes, there's a ground tile. That means this tile can be clicked on, it can be selected, then it proceeds to all of the logic for clicking and selecting. If there isn't a ground tile, that means it's surrounded on all sides by walls and cannot be clicked on, so it turns off everything and just moves to the end of the script. So that's how I've obscured those tiles that are surrounded by wall tiles. So that's the start. What I want to do is kind of add a rudimentary mining system, kinda. I don't know if I'm going to actually have resources to spawn yet, but I do want to have it so I can remove the tiles. And this tile set's already kind of set up weird because I've cut and paste things, and I want to move things around at some point. But basically when you mine the tiles, it's going to eat away and it'll leave little pieces behind like that. And there's a way that you can do that built into 001. It's just placing tiles where other tiles are. But I want to create a sort of mining feature. I haven't actually decided how I'm going to do it yet, but what I can do to start, at least I could probably go back into my old project, see what I did there, but originally I had it set up so there's like a laser beam on the, I think I actually put it in here. No, I didn't. There's a laser beam on the hauler. The player's ship has like a laser whenever it's moving around close to asteroids or exploring in space. It's got this laser piece, and I'll have to explain that better, but or what it's doing, why it looks like this in another video. But I want to copy that laser basically over to my little rovers just so I have the laser attached to it. And I'll actually just add a new custom pose. Kind of actually want to copy the idle pose. I'll add a new one, call it mining, and just paste it in there. I don't know what this blank one is, so I'll delete it. You can click this little red X to delete poses that you don't want to be there. And so now I have a mining pose, which is identical to my idle pose, but I'm going to paste this little mining beam, which for now looks a little bit weird. I think it's in the wrong position even. It should be a little bit higher up. I wonder what I've got it doing here. I don't want it to be an overlay. Maybe I do want it to be an overlay, or at least face X for a top view. I want to correct that by clicking on face X and unclicking it, and it'll stay oriented to the top view. So that's kind of what I want, and now I want to move it up a little bit. So I'll go down to, actually going to give it a name, mining laser. That doesn't update over here unless you save the sprite, so once you save everything, Now I've got mining laser over here, and I want to move it up just a little bit. I don't know how far, not that one. Couple pixels. That's probably fine. I don't know if it's too important because you can't really tell in top-down view if I'm moving it up or down. And then it's got some graphic scripting, or at least the one on the player's ship has some graphic scripting on it. It's supposed to point at the thing that you're targeting. And in this little segment, or in this little section here, rotation Z, it's retrieving the rotation on this axis here, the up and down or in and out axis. Y is up and down and X is left and right, but Z is in and out. So rotation Z means it's rotating around this central point. And the size here, the rotation, is basically the player's position pointing towards the object that it's targeting, and then the size is just how far it is from the object. So it kind of, there's a few things that I need to change here. It's a script that I could still kind of use. I want to kind of copy that and paste it into my to-do list notepad here, just so I can look at it. What I want to do is find a direction angle, not for an actor. I need to find the direction to a point on the map, which will be the angle from the rover to the target X and target Y positions. So there's a few things that I can use right out of the box. 001's use values. And then I'll need to find the direction angle, which is the rotation of the rover. So this will be a little bit fun. I'm going to have to figure this one out. Go back into the rover. I want to use the graphic scripting for this just to kind of give an example of it, but I don't know. I might not get it right on the first time, so bear with me. Since I don't want it to be the compass object, which used to be a kind of navigation compass I had on the player, I need to figure out an angle or direction between points, which I believe is what I want. I need to find the direction between where the rover is and where the targeted tile is. So since it can't be based on the interface coordinates, which are different from map coordinates, I have to find a way to set this up. So basically I want to start with actor rover.x, actor rover.y, and then the destination I could grab from the stored variable that I believe I put on the map, or on the interface. Split into collection the value of surface selected, split it by a semicolon. I'm going to roll this in the last video if there's anything here that's kind of confusing, but I'm using split into collection to split a stored coordinate value that I have, and it's just a set of coordinates stored in a variable, and I just want to pull the first one for the X value and pull the second one for the Y value, which should give me the direction towards the targeted tile from the rover, I believe. And I want it to subtract the actor rover dot direction angle. This is just some basic math that I hope I understand. I could be wrong. I also want to add something to this control here. This is more of another. I always use this slash as a test command when I just want to do a one-shot fire of some kind of event or teleport the player somewhere. So instead, I'm going to use that to change the pose of my rover. change the actor to rover. I want it to switch on the mining pose, just so I can see if I see anything. Hopefully it switches to show the beam, and if it does, the beam should point at what I've targeted. Hopefully.
Scanning.
Speed mode.
Planetary.
I swear, eventually I'll get through all this and there will be a different screen for you guys to stare at. But we have a beam pointing in the direction that the rover is pointing. And my error here, distance check object, which is showing up where? I thought I got rid of that. Index 1 too high, so there we go. I think I put the graphic scripting in the wrong place. Whoops. I sure did. So I think I put it in my body of the rover on accident. So I want to cut that out there and go over to my laser and Control A, backspace, Control V, and then I don't need this yet, so I'm going to pull that out of there and paste it here. So this is the size, this is the direction. And I'll explain this laser here as soon as I get it pointing in the right direction. Now it should be the laser that points instead of the rover's stupid body. And we'll turn on the laser, and for some reason, oh yeah, it doesn't work because there's nothing selected, so I'll have to add a condition to that. So I want the laser to point towards the tile, which is exactly what it's doing. It's not going over the tile for some reason. I'm not really sure. That was what the resize action is supposed to do, but instead it's not. So I also need to reorient the laser just a little bit because it's firing from the center of the rover, but I want it to fire from the nose, kinda. So I'll explain this laser here. The graphic itself is doubly wide as it is, well, the size that you want the laser to be, you need another half of the canvas to be just empty. So this is basically going to pivot on this little central point, and this rotates around the actor because it rotates around its center point, which right now is at the center of the rover. But this lets me, you could probably do it with a full solid line, but I found this actually looks better if you have half of it empty, because it's restretching this entire thing whenever you use the retrieve size X, which is basically going to position, or it's going to stretch it based on where the position of the rover is and the distance to the targeted tile. So it's going to stretch it out, and by leaving this blank chunk here on the left side, I get this, for some reason, I don't know, I experimented with this a few years back, and I did find that it just looks better. It stretches from the center when it resizes along the x-axis, and so this end actually doesn't get as stretched looking. It doesn't look as crappy. So I've also got it set up as an animation sequence, so there's like 4 pieces, so it just has this simple little moving animation here. And then right now it looks like, since it's coming out of the center of the rover, I want it to come out of the nose, so I got to move it so that's right up on the tip, and then I actually want to scoot it back by 2 pixels so it's underneath the nose. Keep it additive, turn off the lights, because I never disabled lighting on the mining laser in the previous prototype. So now I've got this laser beam that will point at the targeted object, and then I can resize it. So I want to adapt this little script here, which right now is the distance between the player ship and the selected object, and instead I want to change this from main to rover, because I want it to be the actor rover dot map. Normally that's checking for the main map that the player's on, but I want it to check the main map that the rover is on. Instead of the player ship, I want it to check for the rover. Here's where it gets tricky. Since it's not an actor that I'm checking, I have to change this entire script. So I want to find the distance between 2 points. Actor distance lets me select 2 actors, but I want to find the distance between. I'm going to use the same split into collection thing that I did earlier. Split into collection, the value that I've got stored in here. Surface selected, the variable's currently holding coordinates. So I want the first half of that, which is going to be the x. Copy that, paste it here into the y, and the second entry is the y coordinate. And then I want to find the distance from the actor rover dot x, actor rover dot y. Leave the source 0 and the destination is 0, because it's just checking along this one layer of a map, basically. So this is going to stretch it. But first I want it to divide by 100. I don't remember what these values are or why I did them, but we'll find out what it looks like in a second. This was, I made this about 7 or 8 years ago. Which seems like a crazy long time, and then I never actually finished the original prototype project. I got a decent amount of work done, but not enough to finish the game. I already have more game to play in this new version, so I've made more progress than I did in 7 years. Mostly after working with this for so long. So first I want to click on one of these so I don't fire errors, and then turn on my laser. So now it comes from the tip of the rover. It's doing some weird, funky crap, because I can explain why, because it's pointing into a wall tile, so it's not high enough to be on top of the tile, but it's not great. The effect is okay at the moment because it's doing what I wanted it to do. It's gonna stretch it out forever, and you can see how it doesn't really distort the line too much. You can see some jaggies sometimes, but it'll actually change wherever I click it. So that's pointing at my targeted tile, and if I turn that off, I get these errors. So what I want to do whenever I don't have something selected is make sure that it's never in the mining pose. But you can see what's happening here is it's actually passing through a wall tile, and that's harder to see in top down. But if I change it to a perspective view, you can kind of see the laser sweeping through things since it's not on top of stuff. Whoops. Be gone, error. So it's not ideal. I kind of want to be able to see the laser on top of everything. The only way I could do that is to make it an overlay. It will then pass over the top of the rover. So let me try and see how that looks, because it'll actually be on top of the rover, which might be what I want. But I also think I'm going to limit the range that you can turn, or it'll stop you from turning. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. You might be able to just drive up next to something and mine it. Oops.
Scanning.
Turbo mode, turbo mode. Down on planet. Pew! Now we go. Bzzz. Now you see it's basically over the top of the tile now. Looks a little bit weird because it's not positioning it exactly in the center. It moves it around with the rover. So I might have to do some adjusting somehow. It works if it's at the center of the rover. I've never actually tried putting it at the tip. What can I do? And if I orient it to the center of the rover, it looks weird. So I move it up to the top. Well, likely what I'm going to do is, there's like a cannon or turret graphic. I have to remake the graphics for the rover. This is like my prototype little doo-doo 3D models. But it's good enough for top-down. And it's probably going to have a little turret that rotates on the top of the rover where everything comes out of, rather than the tip of the rover. So just to see how it looks when it's centered on the rover, I think it actually works better that way, because you don't move the end point whenever you're rotating. So I'll select one of these. Yeah, now see, it stays, the end stays pretty fixed. So I think I'd have to come up with some kind of way to determine the offset based on the rotation angle or some such. And I'm not good enough with math to figure that out, but right now I just kind of want it to zap the tiles with this little laser, and I want to be able to mine the tiles that I've selected, clicking a button. And right now right now I don't have a mining button or an interface for the rover yet, but I just kind of want to squeeze in this little mining feature just to show you how it would work. And I can add a button to make things mine out, just to temporarily put it in there. So right now the targeted tile is all stored just when you click on it. I have to add some conditions in to switch off that pose, but I'm going to make it official by adding a mining feature. So basically, I think I'm going to use my test button, this test button, that's where I'll build my mining switch, or my mining button, temporarily. Eventually it's going to be a button on the interface that you click for mining, I believe, or a key that you press and it will trigger the mining. But I'll build the script in here for now. I don't need this position. First I want to type in tile. Actually, I want to put in my little sound effect. I have this sort of annoying little, well, it's not too bad, but there's a little mining beam sound effect. Might be hard to hear it. Might not be. It plays this little sound, so I'm going to add in more conditions to make sure that there's nothing happening already. There's already, I have like a global switch that it's called action wait, or wait action. This is basically a switch that gets turned on when anything is happening that just got triggered by a button press. So if I press a button for scanning or mining something, I want to turn on this switch if it's not on. So I'll get this switch operation node here, and I'm going to turn on my action wait variable if it's not on, because if it is, it will just skip right past it and won't do anything here. So first thing I want to do is switch the mining pose on. Turn the mining pose on. Play the mining beam sound effect. There'll be a little bit of a delay here. It's a delay of maybe 1 second or so. And then I'm going to type in the word tile. I'm going to change a tile on the map that the rover is on. So the map is going to be actor rover.map. And I'm going to have the layer selected as the floor layer because both ground tiles and wall tiles are considered floor tiles in 001. That's a little bit confusing because they're not called floor tiles when you're looking at the types in the tileset editor. They're called ground tiles or wall tiles, but those are both considered floor layer tiles. So I want to replace the tile with one of my ground tiles, and right now it's going to be this grass tile. I'm actually going to have to set up some conditions to check the map that the player's on to determine what ground tile to place, because if you're in the desert, I don't want to place grass tiles down, but this is temporary. So for now I just want to select this grass tile. And for the X, not that, I want to use that same retrieval method I used earlier, split into collection, and I want to split my global selected variable here by semicolon, and then I want to grab the first entry, the X coordinate, Control A, Control V, and for the Y I want to grab the second entry. So that'll find the tile that I've clicked on, and it's going to replace whatever's there with this grass tile. This is just going to show you how to remove and replace tiles, but what I want it to do ultimately is spawn a little resource bubble that just zooms over to the player. And I think I can just import one of those from my old project. I made a couple. Starting with test to see if we can just get rid of the tiles. Oh, first, before I do that, I needed to do that. I'm going to have it delay for 0.2 before it switches the rover back to its normal pose here. And then we turn this wait action switch off. That way I can't just hit the mining button over and over and over and over. If it's currently in the middle of something, this switch will be on, which will prevent it from going back through and doing it again. So let's give that a go. I should be able to at least click on these tiles and watch them disappear.
Out of range. Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Alright, now that I click on a tile, I'm going to press my mining button. Ooh, nothing happened. So it removes the wall tile but not the roof, which that's weird. Don't remember why. So it's removed the sides, but it doesn't remove the tile above. So what I want that to do is actually, I wanted to replace the tile that's on Z level 1. 1 second. Okay. scooch these down. Change that to Z1. And I want it to be nothing. I don't remember if that works or not, but I'll find out here in just a moment. Back to our favorite
Scanning.
little yellow planet.
Entering planetary
Again.
orbit.
Okay. So, bloop. It does not work because there is no nothing tile. I want it to be a blank tile, which I'm just going to leave. Actually, I gotta change this name. I want it to be nothing, blank, or null. Null is a good name. Alright. Okay. Then I'll go back to that control. My mining button, my temporary mining button. I'm going to change this tile to tile 0 of the ground tile set. And tile 0 is the first tile. Basically, they're numbered 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and so forth, starting with 0. So you can actually put the tile ID there, or ID number, and we'll see if that does it. That should place a blank tile or erase it to nothing, which is what I want to happen to the roof tiles. I forgot that it doesn't remove the roof tiles along with the ground wall tile. That's a little confusing to say because there's a lot of different layers and some of the names are kind of similar. Okay, so we'll click on one of these. We can't go through it right now. We'll drive around over here. Mine it. That still didn't replace the tile correctly. So I think it might have to be Z32. Bear with me, it's been a while since I've worked with dynamic maps or editing maps in real time like this. I think it's C32 because these are coordinates and not map positions. Oops.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
There we go. Now the last thing I wanted to do is turn off this selector frame so it disappears before I continue, just to see if I can get it all in one clean little go. So it'll change the tiles or erase them. And then we want to set the existence of the selector field, surface selector, wherever that went, to non-existent. Could set it to invisible, but I'm going to set it to non-existent so it's just not there at all. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Now, given that I've hopefully set everything up correctly with the checking adjacent tiles to make sure that the tiles aren't surrounded on all sides, it should just work like a nice little mining system here. Let's try it. Blink. Oh, why didn't it turn off the selector? That should have. Interesting. Let me think. Can't imagine that would make a big difference, but yellow planet ho.
Entering planetary orbit.
Okay. So I'm kind of stumped why it's not clearing that out. But now it lets me select the tiles that were obscured earlier. Huh. It's still keeping tiles in place there for some reason. Oh, I know what I did. Dun, 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 dun. Not why the selector is not working, but I need it to replace. Oh, no, I don't. Head scratching moments.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Can I drive in there? Yes, I can. Okay, just switching those out worked. I still don't know why the selector's staying there. It shouldn't. Well, and yeah, that'll happen if nothing is currently selected. So, broke everything. That'll come later, fixing all of those fun little error messages, but right now I want to know why it won't turn off my selector frame. It should. Let me just try and move it away. And just scooch it over. Don't know if that's going to work, but I just don't want it to be visible. That's a terrible fix for now, but I'm going to see if I can make it disappear. I'm not sure why it's not turning itself off.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
And it's not moving. It's doing nothing. So, even though it should be turning off here, I'm not sure what it's doing. Huh. That really should do the trick. Let me even So there's another thing that you can do if you've never found this. Break into the script debugger when the event is reached. If you tick this little box, whenever the script runs, it'll hit this node and then it'll bring up the debugger to at least show you that it made it that far in your script. And I know it is. I just don't understand what it's doing. It might actually, I think I do know what's happening here. It's basically, I think it's being turned on every frame by the rover's timer here, but if the mouse isn't hovering over it, it shouldn't. Oh, yeah, okay. Let's see. Aha. What I also need to do, I believe I just need to clear out the coordinates that I have stored. Because in the rover there's a timer that's constantly turning the selection field or the selector frame on and off based on some conditions, and it's turning it on if there's something currently stored. And if I remove that value, so I want to get a variable operation here, change the selected object value to nothing, not 0, nothing. And then, well, actually I want to put that after the delay. Yoop, yoop, yoop. Okay.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Now, click on one of these, mine it, bloop, and the selector goes away. Perfect. I can mine that because it has an adjacent ground tile, and it forms little blobs, just the way I want it. We'll go and try it out in a few places to make sure it works everywhere. I still have to fix the tile for the isolated resource. It's actually really tiny. I don't like that, but you can click on all of these, mine them out. The last step is to add a resource drop of some kind, something that falls and the player gains resources in their cargo stash or whatever. There's two little nodes. And as you can see, since I've got the action wait switch set up, I can't click to deselect it. I have to wait until the mining operation is done before I can click anything else. That works pretty well. Now, I also need some cool mining particle effects so that it looks like a laser is zapping my rocks. And so I'll go create a new one. I'll just make it from scratch. I have some that I've made before that I kind of want to copy, but just to see if I can, by memory, recreate these. Mining copper. I want different colored mining animation. So well, first I'll just mining particles. I'm just going to make a generic mining particles animation. I want to add a couple layers in here. First one I want to make, oops, I'm going to add a blank image, just one. I want it to be something like, let's say 6. Not too big, not too tiny. This is going to be my little smoke particle layer. I'm just going to draw kind of like a little cloud thing. Add some darker values in there. And then get rid of this collision. Center the object or center the sprite to the very middle and turn on particle generation. I also want it to be additive so it'll blend in with itself. And this one, it's going to start out right at the center with no X speed. I want it to go up. So let's give it a range here of 8. -8, I mean, -8. Or negative, let's say -4 to -8. So it's kind of a smoky appearance, not quite. I'll give it a rotation change value here, 180, 360. So they'll just spin around. I wonder if I can put in a negative there. Yeah, they'll spin around randomly. And then we want the ending opacity to be pretty low range. Frequency is probably okay. I might change it to about 8. So it's kind of more of a poof, little tufts. And then I want the size to change so that they get bigger as they go up. And that's 100% change there. They're moving pretty quick. I wonder if I can 2 to 4, not 54. Yeah, kind of like that. I want just this smoky cloud effect. So I want to turn the lifetime down, maybe 0.6. And we'll change the starting size to 80. So even smaller than that, 75-ish. And 120. Maybe 115. Oh, 1,000. We'll give it a small range on the x-axis of -1 to 1. So it'll kind of go, I wonder if I can even shrink that, 0.5 to 0.5. Now, it looks a lot more like a little smoke tuft. And I don't want it to loop, I just want it to happen one time. So change the sequence mode to once. You can tell it to limit how many it spawns every time it runs. So if you were to start it over, it would only spawn 10 particles. You can tell it to spawn less than that. I can make it kind of a quick animation. Boop. And it'll be random every time since it's going to start using these range values. To make it more smoky, I could increase the frequency or make it more quick puff. I want it more like 8. I want it to last slightly longer. We're zoomed way in on it too, so it's going to be a really small little smoke puff. I'm going to disable the lighting. So that's my smoke puff. I also want some little tiny particles that burst outwards. So I'm going to add, I always do that, another little blank image. We'll make that 4x4. This one's just going to be some dirt chunks. Could even be a little bit bigger around the edges. Let's give it some random pixel colors. I'm not a very good pixel artist. I've done a little bit, but that's about the same size as the other one. So let's shrink it down to 3x3 and just use a little cross shape. And I'll add one more here. I do that every time. Just a blank image, 3x3. And I'll just throw in a little dot. These two I don't need to be additive, but I do need to reset their positions to 0. So everything's right in the middle. And then I'll start with this one. I want to add particle generation to it. And it's going to play the smug tuft, and that's going to go away. But I'm going to work on this one. So the lifetime of this one I probably want to be about 1. Starting distance is all going to be 0. And then the starting speeds, I want it to actually be between x and x, or positive x and negative x. And I want it to move upwards. So it's going to go up. And over here we have this other one called speed change, which you can put in the opposite value. Oops. To make it start to fall back down again. So I want it to actually go up faster. Not that fast, but. And then fall back down like gravity's pulling it up. So just a little bit of messing around with this, and I can get this almost fountain appearance. The additive would make everything too bright, but I don't want there to be that many. So I'll change my frequency to 0.1. Actually, I have my finger on the wrong key there. 0.5. Keep that frequency. 0.05, I mean. Change the ending opacity so that it fades out. And I want to increase the speed change. I believe I can use a range there just to fling them out a little bit to the left and right. See if I make this just a dot. That looks slightly better. So, I also want to limit the amount on this one so that it just bursts out. I might not even need the second one at the moment. Let me keep messing with this one. It's very tiny. Mostly just have to mess with the settings a little bit until I get something that kind of looks like rocks flying out, or little particles, little pieces of that tile flinging outwards. And the actual size of this is pretty tiny. That's the only reason I kind of want two of these layers. If I come in here, just add a little bit of a darker one. But that is also offset, so I need to fix that. Reset the node position. And there we go, kind of a little burst. All I want to do is add that to my mining animation by going into my temporary mining button, and where you turn on the pose here, it's going to play the mining beam sound, and since that animation is, the lifetime of the particles is about 1 second, this delay should line up with the animation. So I also want to include a play sprite. I want to make sure it's the one for maps, not the one for interfaces. Play sprite on a map at a certain point on a map, and I want it to be on as usual since I am working with the rover. It needs to be on the actor rover.map. And I want it to play my particle that I just made in my effects folder, which I always lose track of because I have so many freaking folders. Mining particles. And we want to play it at the same split location, split into collection, my surface selected variable. I did that wrong. I want to split it first. Surface selected, split it by a semicolon. I want the first entry, and for the Y, I want my second entry. For the 0, doesn't matter. It's going to play it at the location of the end of the mining laser, or where the tile is. And there's a way that I can add some variance to it, so it sort of plays the laser effect, or the particle effect, slightly differently. I don't want to be moving it all, but I'll do the offset and adding randomization to it later. When it's done, we want it to disappear. So this is just to test it, so I scooch it over to the side usually when I'm adding a new node that I'm testing.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Alright, now when we go to mine, it doesn't play anything for some reason. Because it's playing it inside the wall. I keep forgetting the top-down part makes things a bit strange. So first I want to check my sprite orientations in my mining particles. So we want it to face X on the top view, face X on the top view, and face X on the top view. But we also want it to play 32 pixels higher than where it's being played, because it's going to be playing on top of these wall tiles. I want it to be at Z32.
Entering planetary orbit.
Alright. Where's my particle effect? Where is it? Let's try one last little thing. You can set these to overlay, which will usually put my graphics on top of everything. It's especially useful in top-down because overlay can go over anything and works almost like an interface field, pretty much. It's the setting that you want to use for any of the graphics on your interface anyway. So let's see if that works. If that doesn't, I'll actually be stumped. And that doesn't work at all. Very, very strange to me. Oh, it does work. Just kidding. It's going incredibly, incredibly fast. So, that's very strange. First, I want to cut that out and put it in my idle pose. So it's playing slow here, looks really nice here. Does not look so nice in game, it's moving too fast. Not certain exactly what the remedy for that is, other than changing my particle settings just a little bit. So it says it's supposed to be 0.6 seconds. I don't even think changing the pose rate changes the particle rate, but I'll give it a shot. I do think I have to change my settings in the particle generation. Let's see.
Entering planetary orbit.
So it is playing it. You can see it. It's just super tiny. There we go. So I go back into my particles. I want that to take a second. I want that to take 1 second so that it lines up with my sound effects and my delay.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Now mine it. That's a bit better. It should last a little bit longer than that. Let's go back in here. I do kind of want these to be a little bigger. I'll make this one the bigger one. So now there's little particles that pop out. Make it last about 1.2.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
There we go. Nice little mining smoke. I want the pose to turn off as soon as the... Oops, that's not in here. No. I want the mining pose to turn off as soon as the tile disappears, so I gotta come back in here. I want to pull... Actually, yeah, I don't even want this delay here at the moment. rid of that little delay, and it should instantaneously turn off the mining beam right as the tile disappears. The joys of testing things.
Scanning.
See the same screen 1,000 times, hear the same songs, same little sounds. Choking on my drink here. There we go. Now you can mine out all the ores. With a cool little smoky effect. Final few things to add are distance checks and resource drops. I think I want to add the resource part first, and I'm going to jump into the old project, the ancient alpha beta prototype, where I have at least a default, I'll call it a default, little resource. Jump into my actor templates. There are resource nodes, whole bunch of them here, lots of little colors. I'm going to start with iron and copper, and I just want to export this actor template into my folder here. I have import assets folder. That's pretty much just for importing the 001 assets. So I want to save that. Actually, I think I'm missing something else too. Back here, I might be wrong. Let me check my templates here. Basically, all they should do is load up. What does all this do? Oh yeah. This is to check if there's still space in the cargo hold and all that. Really all I want it to do right now is start moving, and really it's a small set of triggers. When the resource first loads, I want it to just begin accelerating, and it's got an acceleration value of nothing and a speed of 20. So it basically just starts zooming forward, and it only works if the player is within a certain distance of it. So these used to check if you're in space or not, and I'm going to actually mess around with that later because I haven't set up the rover's cargo hold, but this would check whether you have space in the cargo hold, and if not, it just stops the resource from coming towards you. Otherwise, it zooms right at the player, and whenever it hits you or gets close enough to the rover, then it gets added to the rover's hold or the cargo hold, and that's a whole bunch of stuff. But all I want to do right now is just have it zoom at the player. So I'm going to export its parent, the space resource. Go back into my project here and use the importer to import my resource, space resource AT and copper AT. So 1AT, all of the files in 001 have little extensions that you can keep track of. RS is for resources. SO, I think, was sprite. AT is for actor template. There's a couple other ones like tile set and such, I think are TS. SO is for sounds. But I want to import these That should stick them here in my actor templates. Nice and convenient. And when it's first spawned or loaded onto the map, it'll just start moving forward. And since it's going to be a different switch than the old project, we want to see if this is on the surface. Has the rover been deployed? And I want, basically it's just going to rotate this little resource bubble to face the rover, and I can use it to check the map that it's on. Actually, I don't even have to do that. Yeah, it's just going to find the rover's position and face it. It's going to turn towards the rover. And if it's not on the surface, it'll turn towards the main player ship, which right now I'm not doing space resources yet. I'm doing surface resources. So I'll change this one to rover deployed. And it doesn't have cargo hold yet, so I basically just want to skip this. Let me see really quickly. Is the player standing still? I don't remember why I had that condition in there, but this is basically going to check to see if the player is within 100. I might even make it smaller than that. Say 96. If the player is within 96 pixels of this little actor here, it'll start moving towards it. If it's not, it should stop accelerating, but I'm going to deal with all that later. First, it's just going to accelerate when it loads. This is for, this condition here is for when you re-enter the map, what does this resource do? In case the rover's cargo hold was too full, it gets left behind, so you can come back and get it later. But I want it to be able to zoom towards the player whenever you're close enough. So the copper resource has that trigger here. Whenever the player is less than 20 pixels away, so we'll make that less than 20, I think it is, that it does all this crap to check whether or not there's space in the cargo hold. But right now I just want it to play the sound effect, which is no longer called gather. However, it's in here somewhere. Mining gather. We want it to play a little sound effect, shrink this actor out of existence, and then delete it from the map. Right now it's not going to give the player any items. This is all irrelevant at the moment. That should be enough to just test spawn. So we go back into my mining control. And whenever the tile is removed, I want it to spawn an actor, or create an actor, I mean. I want it to create a completely new actor on the map that the rover is on, actor rover.map. And I want it to spawn, for now I'm just going to have it spawn a copper. And we'll call it copper node, or yeah, copper node for now. Once again, I have to go do this split into collection trick. Split my selected variable using a semicolon. Grab that, change that to a 2. So it's going to spawn this little copper thing wherever the tile was. It's not going to change its facing direction or anything. But we want it to do that before we clear out that variable. So I want it to happen as soon as the tiles disappear or the tiles are changed. Now, if all goes accordingly, a little copper ball doesn't have a graphic, I don't think. So let me take a peek. I forgot. I don't think I have a graphic for my little copper ball. No, I do not. So, really quickly, before I test it and finish it up and see if it even works, let's go export my copper ball sprite. There are so many folders. I have to remember where it is. Good Lord. It's not an asteroid and it's not debris. Yes. No, I'm incorrect. I really don't remember where I stored them, so let me take a look here. These are in my space resources. Cargo hold space resources. Good Lord. That's the side menu, system, cargo hold, resources, space resources. Alright, there's my copper ball. Very basic. I'm just going to export this TR copper, close this, go back into alpha delta. I'm just calling it that for now. Ultimately, I believe the project's called alpha beta at the moment. Alpha delta is just how I'm saving it. So I'm going to import that little copper ball. TR copper, where are you? TR copper, go. And that's going to import it with all of the folders that it was originally in, which is sometimes useful, not always. So I want to just get in here, drag this guy up and out of there so I can delete these folders. You can't have anything in the folders if you want to delete them, so you have to drag and drop them out of the folders. So I'll just scooch this into my storage folder, delete these useless folders. Now I have my TR copper graphic, which I wasn't organized about back in the day. Resource. Alright, so that'll be my little ball sprite. And go back to my templates, change the, oh, that just loaded itself. So, okay. See if that works at all. Yeah, almost an hour and a half. Covering a lot of random stuff here, a lot of ground with the mining system. Mining should be almost or mostly done as long as the resources drop here. So once you mine one, what do we get here? Where is that? Copper node loaded. None of this should be loading up, and I know why. I thought I got rid of that loaded trigger. Now I'm confused because I don't know why it's doing that. It should only be doing these things. Okay, well, let me take a look at that error one more time.
Entering planetary orbit.
If you've been wondering at all, I did make the music for this too when I was bored. So there's little soundtrack clippies that I made. Let's break this again. Okay, so in the copper node, trigger actor loaded. There is no I don't know where that is. Oh, yes, I do. So, I think no, I'm not sure. Huh. Because it's using the loaded trigger from these objects, which are space objects, and this is a space resource. It shouldn't be using this at all. I'm very confused by that. Let's say, for now, I'm going to move all these over here. So that all the triggers are inside the copper. I'm going to remove the parent template, so that's just a normal object here. And then I'll get rid of this for now. I don't know why it's trying to associate it as a space object when it's not. It's a space resource. So it should be spawning a copper. Why are there two coppers? Oh, I was having it spawn a planet. Whoops. Oops. That's because I named two things copper like a doofus. Don't be like me.
Entering
All right.
planetary orbit.
It's still spawning a copper planet. When it should be spawning this copper. Okay, so I want to change that name because I'm a fool. Copper node. As it's trying to spawn. Never use two things with the same scripting ID, or you'll run into that kind of fun garbage. So we'll call it copper node, change its name. It should spawn a copper node now instead of a planet.
Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
Alright. Final shot. There we go. It moves straight towards you. What is it? Oh. Still trying to check some conditions about the player ship, which it shouldn't be. So I want it to be checking the distance between other stuff. If switch. This isn't going to make much sense. Oops. But I have to change a few things here. If rover deployed is on. I'm trying to find why is it checking between the rover and the player ship here? Oh yeah, that's right. Instead of player ship, that'll be main eventually. And instead of main, the rover.map between this. Okay, so this is basically checking the distance between this copper node, this actor here, and if rover deployed is turned on, checking the distance between that and the rover. Otherwise, check between that and the ship. So I have to fix the same thing here. I want it to check the actor rover.map value. And then over here, instead of on surface, I want it to be rover deployed. And I'll change this to main because I'm not using S player ship anymore. And all this should do is move the object to the rover and then disappear when it plays a sound. So once I'm done with this, I'll go back through and we can relook at all those little pieces. So if anything was confusing, I'll break it back down for you. Alright, so click on a tile, mine it. Now I can pick up little resource nodes. Bink! I don't even know where that one went. Huh. Well, something is amiss. They're spawning, but now they're disappearing. So I'm uncertain why. Since I can't see it at the moment, I think it's set to overlay as well. So where did I put it? All the way down at the bottom, set to overlay. The fact that I'm hearing this sound effect means that it is still moving towards the rover and getting collected. So let me try one of these. What? I am stumped.
Out of range. Scanning. Entering planetary orbit.
So it works when I'm at a certain point. But if I go anywhere else, it doesn't seem to. If I'm below it or too close to it, I haven't figured out what the condition is. Because now it's working. And then it stops working. Well, let me add that in there. To my to-do list, because I am uncertain, I'm a bit stumped, but for the most part it does seem to be working unless I'm at a certain position away from it or too close to it. I can't figure it out. I'm still able to gather the resources. Speed over here and see what happens with this one. So, that'll be something for the next video. They appear when I'm closer to them. I actually don't know. They don't appear when I'm closer to them. Well, there's the basic setup. Ultimately, I've got this little button that triggers my mining behavior. It first checks to make sure that nothing else is happening, which prevents you from mining over and over. Turns on the mining pose, which has my little laser beam, and plays the sound effect and some particle effects. Then we wait for a second, so it lets everything play through. And then this is where we change the tile out. It takes two change tile events, one for the wall and one for the roof, to remove it. So it's going to remove one that's at 32 pixels above Z and one that's at 0 Z. So it'll clear out two tiles by placing a floor tile down or a ground tile. Then it will spawn a little copper node, and that copper node, all it does is face the player and accelerate towards them. As soon as it hits the player, there's going to be some triggers that add the item to the inventory and all that. Then it clears out the selected coordinates and turns off the selection frame and returns the pose back to normal. So the only thing I had to add was the little copper node, and it just moves towards the player super fast. So I haven't quite figured out why it's not showing up half the time. I don't have anything in here I believe would get rid of it or make it disappear, but that'll be something I figure out for the next video. So save my to-do list, get out of this little grid here. But hopefully that helps you guys figure out a little bit of stuff if you're trying to make a tile selector or some kind of mining system in your game, or if you just want to know how to replace tiles on a map in real time like that. Not a blank tile, but where you're in the game and you can edit tiles. So hopefully that was informative and somewhat helpful. know it went a little longer than I've been going lately, but wasn't as rambly this time, and I managed to make a decent amount of progress on the mining system. So before I go, I've got to squeeze in just a little bit about Screaming Brain Studios. If you have never been, go to screamingbrainstudios.com. There's lots and lots of free public domain graphics and textures and tile sets for your games you can use. You can do whatever you want with them. You can modify them. You can edit them. You can use them however you want in commercial projects. There's a whole bunch of old school graphics tutorials, from isometric graphics to making textures, and then a whole bunch of tools that you can grab for game development, texture creation, terrain design, 3D modeling, and just random utilities. But thank you guys for checking out the videos, and I'll be back tomorrow, most likely with some more, if not sometime this weekend. Thank you for checking everything out and sticking with me on this weird adventure designing a space game. Until next time.